It is the worst experience ever. And so I promised myself, I said, if I'm gonna mix songs, I'm gonna mix it like I'm a DJ.
It's like hearing someone sing off key, like everybody's on key. You hear that one off key, like, man, you don't shit there.
So, you know, to me, I was like, I'm not a DJ. I ain't got no pioneer set and nothing like that. But I was like, in my mind, this is what I would do. Hence, the mashups came to life and saying, let me use my musicianship and my musicality to get me from one song to the other and try creative ways of doing it. And so what I realized from the mashups is that it created community more so than anything.
Nice.
And that's what I appreciated more so than the views, because the views are, you know, over 100 million views now. It's just with the mashups alone. But what I appreciated was it introduced me to a brand new audience. Absolutely. You know, this stuff ended up on the Shade Room, on YouTube. It created a life of its own. And so there were people that knew me as this mashup guy, and they never heard a song from me. And I was like, man, like, I don't know if I should take that as an insult or I was like, but regardless, it's still a part of me. And there's
part of the story.
Exactly. And it's still being introduced to a part of my being, a part of my creativity. And so how can I be mad at that?
That's right.
So,
can we talk? Oh, can we talk? Can we talk? R&B.
What's up, guys? Thank you for tuning in to another episode. I apologize for interrupting really quick. I just wanted to talk to you guys about how much work it's taking us to contribute this incredible content for you guys. For all you R&B lovers that really enjoy these conversations from legends and new artists and just R&B contributors across the board, we would greatly appreciate if you just hit subscribe, like, and share this content. God bless you, and here's the episode. It's your boy, Ian Vaughn, and I have a special treat for you guys today. You know, I guess my track record at this point is pretty solid of reaching out to really quality artists and talent, songwriters, producers across the board. And I'm here to introduce you guys to someone I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are familiar with, but the ones who aren't, we have this incredible vocalist, not just singer, but vocalist, singer-songwriter, producer, Kevin Ross in the building. We used to say an R&B sensation. You know what I'm saying? He's on his way to being superstar status in this business, man. Like, thank you for coming, bro.
That means a lot, man. Thank you for having me.
Come on, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate you for taking the time. We created this space to have these type of conversations with artists like yourself, to introduce you to the audience as well, to the world, but just so we can have more depth from not just the catalog, but actually just getting to know who you are.
Absolutely.
Across the board. And then we're just having conversations about our favorite genre.
Come on, let's talk about it. Can we talk about R&B?
Come on, man. Come on, man. Absolutely we can. So we're going to get into it. You from DC.
Yeah.
Tell me like what got you into R&B like in the DC area? I know it's a lot of heat that comes in the whole DMV that's just been contributing from across the board, from Tank, Johnny Gill,
Genuine, Maya, even going back to Roberta Flack.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the list goes on and on as far as amazing artists that come from the area.
Sure.
And so, I mean, but I can attribute, you know, my love for R&B to my dad. My dad played a lot of R&B and a wide range of it, starting from like 60s, 70s, so Blue Magic, Delphonic, Stylistics,
Come on,
Temptations, Curtis Mayfield, The Whispers, all that stuff.
Man, how old are you?
I am 30-something. I'm 30-something.
Yeah,
but
okay.
I mean, to be honest,
I don't hear that much though. Like of your generation, I don't hear that much. Like the artists that you're naming, that your dad brought you up on that. Like from your generation of guys, I don't generally hear that. So that's refreshing to hear.
It's crazy because my dad in the 90s, you know, he was in his 20s.
Sure.
And so, you know, he was an old soul.
Yeah.
And so that's where, you know, we were in this very like interesting time capsule in a sense where I'm like, both my parents in their 20s, they both don't necessarily like what's on the radio. And so they just kept playing these old school records. So to me, by the time that, you know, the late 90s came around and I'm, you know, 8, 9, something like that, and Diddy's coming out with these records, I'm starting to identify to say, oh, that's that sample, or, you know what I mean? So it was a great lesson as well in a sense of the art of sampling, right? And reintroducing something that was 20 or 30 years prior to a new generation, and for them to do their research. And you know, there's an art and a respect in that as well.
Sure.
And I thank my parents for kind of schooling me in that way. So it was really a blessing in disguise for them to be such old souls.
Yeah.
And playing that kind of music for sure.
That's major, man, because you know, I grew up, well, the 90s to me is like my time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so I was in high school
Yeah.
in the 90s. I graduated high school in 98. And all of that you're talking about, like, to me, we had these conversations like, what decade is better, the 90s or the 70s or whatever. And I'm always on the fence because I'm such a big fan of, you know, all these bands from the 70s. But I lean towards the 90s. And I mean, it's like, just barely, but I lean towards the 90s just because of the persona. The feeling was a little cooler for my time.
Yeah,
so it brings me back to that. But I do recognize the incredible greatness. And I mean, when we really break it down, I think the 70s might have had the most elite, because it was the first time we heard music at that level across the board, I feel like, in history.
Yeah, you know it was like a music explosion in a sense. Like, I mean, you know, people can attribute that to psychedelics.
For sure. Oh, for sure.
but
Studio 54.
You know, needless to say, all across the board, every genre was exploding in a sense of just discovering new ways of attacking music because of sonic discoveries as well.
That's right.
So, you know, the Beatles was really in their bag. Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, Led Zeppelin, Queen,
That's right.
etc.
That's right.
So everybody. So by the time that we get to the 80s, this is the blockbuster moment. It's like all of this discovery led to understanding the viability or the monetary value of music.
Yeah.
My bad. I'm a student of this.
No, I love
it. You know, with that being said, it's like, it's, you know, of course I lean more towards the 70s because of the richness of the music and just the variety of what it offered. It gave way to the 90s. But what I respect about the 90s is that you had true, pure students that were committed to not necessarily emulating, but elevating the sound of what they grew up on.
Absolutely.
And so that's where that freshness comes in. And then, of course, hip-hop comes in. So now you got the edge of hip-hop.
That's right.
You got the clothing. You got the culture. You got the lifestyle mixed with the musicianship.
Absolutely.
These church musicians starting to create R&B records. Executives really bossing up. Black executives really bossing up. Black entrepreneurship.
You're starting to see
starting to see, you know, right before the big boom. You know what I mean? Of Black entrepreneurship in its full glory. I know I really went off track.
No. Actually, I mean, I love that. It brings me back, I guess, just thinking about that. So the musicians of the 70s, these guys, all they had to do was play all day and practice all day. One of my big brothers, mentor of mine, Kim Sharp, he used to play with the Commodores. He used to play with this group called, a band called Chocolate Milk. He used to play with Prince. He used to play with Santana. Masterful guitars. He told me, he said, man, I used to be playing in clubs at 15 years old, like in nightclubs, and we literally will be playing for 16 hours a day, like practicing.
Wow.
So, and he's like, it took me 20 years to even still understand the guitar. When I tell you, if you hear this guy play, it's like
ridiculous.
Oh, it's ridiculous. But he's like, it took me this long to master the guitar. I don't know that the generations after that put that level of attention to into learning the instrument the way they did back in the 70s. So from that, or 60s or whatever, so from that standpoint, I think the musicianship master ring happened at that time. What makes that so cool about the 90s is those guys who did become elite musicians studied under those guys.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? To help create that. But that's a whole nother channel. But I love that because that's just how dynamic the music business has been. And just, I mean, R&B music, and shows the evolutions and the branches.
Absolutely.
The branches of it. So you talked about being, you know, inspired by this music from the 70s. Like, how did you, I guess, navigate to like the R&B genre yourself? Like, you grew up listening to this music, but when you start creating the music yourself, like, how old were you when you first started saying, "This is what I want to do for a living"? Or
I was about 15 years old, and in high school, went to Duke Ellington School of the Arts. Shout out to Ellington. And there, it kind of like the bug hit me.
Yeah.
And so performing on stage, you know, euphoric.
Yeah.
But then also, like my friend, he had a Yamaha 16-track recorder.
Come on.
And went over his house, and he was like playing me some stuff. And I was like, how do you do that? And he taught me like the basics of like how to run it. And I was like, is it okay like if I try something? And man, I think I maybe spent maybe an hour hanging with him, and I spent the rest of the time just messing with this 16-track recorder.
Man, I remember doing joints, right?
You know what I'm saying? And so I saved up some money, and I was like, man, like I think I saved up $1,000. I was super proud of myself.
Sure.
I was ready to blow it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want that 16-track recorder. However, I could have just bought it myself, but I didn't know. So I was like, I'm gonna buy it from my friend. I was like, yo, do you want that? Like, I'll give it, I'll give you $1,000. Yeah. And it was probably worth less. Yeah. He was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And the process began in the sense of harmonies, and I had a Yamaha keyboard and just playing stuff, and I was like, man, I got so much music inside of me. Granted, I didn't have structure. Yeah. I didn't necessarily understand like the fundamentals of playing keys. It was just the fact of I love the feeling of creating.
Could you were able to track on that keyboard?
Yeah, I was able to track. It didn't sound great, but it was just so fun to me. Like
the building blocks.
Yeah, like being in school and like studying Ellington and Count Basie and all of these amazing people. Then on the classical side, Italian arias and German and French and all this stuff. And so I was like, man, all of these compositions are from, spanning from 50 years ago to hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And I'm like, and this music still exists and we're learning it. Like, that's crazy to me. I was like, what if I was able to create just one composition that lasted longer than me?
Come on.
And that's when the real desire started to kick in. I was like, I'm not too focused on being a classical singer or a jazz singer or whatever. I'm like, I want to be the creator of these songs. And so, around 15, I started to, which I didn't know.
It sounds to me that you were looking at, because I don't believe when I was that age, I was looking at it cerebrally that way. You know what I'm saying? So I think that actually adds to the genius of what it is that you do. I guess the way you approach music. So that's pretty impressive. I do agree. I think that kind of goes to the point I was making a second ago about like back in the 60s and the 70s, how these musicians, they didn't have much else to do if they were serious about it, and they would spend so much time. So you think about what Mozart was doing. Think about, what Beethoven was doing. These guys, what else was, like, you're not going anywhere. You're not going hanging out with the homies and they're going to do this and then come home and chat for a minute. No, you got to be shedding like all day.
Because that was their TV, that was their social media, that was their everything. You know what I mean? And so, like you said, when you put in them hours, things start to get, really crazy as far as just what God can do in the space of you being a vessel and being open to receive that dopeness.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Talking about that, just real quick on that you said the 1680, was it the Yamaha?
I don't know what series it was now, but I know it was a 16
track joint.
Yeah.
And I remember playing with those different recording machines or whatever. I had an 880 back in the day, and this is when I was first trying it. And I'm like, I love to do harmonies, and I'm like, all I got is 8 tracks. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, okay, I'll grab a keyboard or grab my guitar or something, and try to use whatever I can, try to maximize 1 or 2 tracks with that, and then utilize the other 6 for vocals. I got you, man. That was definitely a fun time. And now you can just open your laptop and you got as many tracks as you want.
Man,
you know what I'm saying?
That was a game changer. What?
Next level, man. So when I first, just so you know, when I first was introduced to you, it was on social media. You had gone viral on YouTube for doing these mashups.
Mashups, yeah.
And I can't remember who sent me the first video, but this might have been, I don't know, this might have been 17, 18 maybe.
Yeah.
Something like that. And I remember like hearing your masterful harmony choices.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like I'm one of those guys. I can hear it. I got if I can't do anything, I can hear it.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to the choices that just different songs that you were doing, and I'm just like, goodness gracious, like you really, you know what I'm saying? Like it's certain guys. Like I think about guys like what's my man Jacob Collier.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Amazing.
Masterful.
Yeah.
Masterful arranger, singer. And I put you in that category.
Wow.
Obviously styles are different.
Yeah.
But you're an R&B artist. He is more of a world artist.
Yeah.
But it still he's pulling from soul for sure. So when I listen to stuff like that and I watch you do what you do, I'm just super impressed by it. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of guys that started to do that after that and do a fantastic job, but you still, you still have a very unique approach to that. Like what got you into that? What inspired that?
I'm gonna be honest, my brother. Shout out to my brother, Kelvin. He sent me an app, and he actually sent me a video of him doing like some song or whatever because he sings as well.
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Yo, what is that?" He sent me the app, and I like sent something back really quick. Like once I understood the mechanics of the app, and we were just trading different like acapella like clips back and forth. And so I was like, one day I was like, I wonder like if I post one of these. Let's just see, right? And so, I mean, everything is on a sliding scale as it pertains to like your following and stuff.
Right.
But when I put out the first acapella, it was like maybe like a 15-second joint on Instagram, and I just seen like the engagement like so much higher than anything else that I had ever posted. And I was like, they really like this, like, and it was so brief. Then once Instagram went to like, it was like 15 and 30, then a minute, the more time that they gave me, the more that I could start mixing songs. And so I remember being like, going to events and stuff like that. And I ain't gonna lie, like some DJs are really great at what they do. And some of them are really bad at mixing. And so one thing that I really hate that I'm like, I can't stand is when DJs focus on the BPM or beats per measure of a song and not the key. And so there's nothing worse me than having the vocals in one key.
That's right.
And different music in the other. However, rhythmically they get along.
But they don't harmonize.
But melodically,
they don't blend.
It is the worst experience ever. And so I promised myself, I said, if I'm gonna mix songs, I'm gonna mix it like I'm a DJ.
It's like hearing someone sing off key, like everybody's on key. You hear that one off key, like, man, you don't shit there.
So, to me, I was like, I'm not a DJ. I ain't got no pioneer set and nothing like that. But I was like, in my mind, this is what I would do. Hence, the mashups came to life and saying, let me use my musicianship and my musicality to get me from one song to the other and try creative ways of doing it. And so what I realized from the mashups is that it created community more so than anything.
Nice.
And that's what I appreciated more so than the views, because the views are, over 100 million views now. It's just with the mashups alone. But what I appreciated was it introduced me to a brand new audience.
Absolutely.
This stuff ended up on the Shade Room, on YouTube. It created a life of its own. And so there were people that knew me as this mashup guy, and they never heard a song from me. And I was like, man, like, I don't know if I should take that as an insult or I was like, but regardless, it's still a part of me. And there's
part of the story.
Exactly. And it's still being introduced to a part of my being, a part of my creativity. And so how can I be mad at that?
That's right.
So that was a great experience.
Man, that's fantastic. Wow. So first of all, I'm listening to that, and then you said it's over 100 million now. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
To have that reach, man, to have that type of reach, like what does that feel like though? So even now that people, they may not have known you from your music that you've been putting out, but they know you now, and now, you have 100 million people that just might, or even if it's a fraction of those people, to look up who you're, look at your music, what does that feel like? I mean,
it feels really cool. What it did was it gave me a sense of validation in a time that I needed it the most.
Come on.
I was questioning myself as an artist, as a creative, if I'm good enough. I was in kind of like this waiting period with my label at the time. And so I was just like, man, like I just need an outlet. And I didn't know it back then, but that was like the perfect outlet for me. Like it really gave me a sense of like purpose to say, all right, every week I'm doing this, and that. And so once I started doing more current songs, I started to see artists, you know what I mean, that own those songs start to repost. And I was like, this is dope. Nice. And started to really build a network of people as well. So it's humbling, the views, it's humbling, the people that I've met through it. And man, like that was just such a great time.
That's fantastic.
Such a great time.
So it's interesting. That leads me to one of the next questions I wanted to ask. So you were on a label at one point. What you sharing what label?
Oh yeah, Motown.
You was with Motown. What happened with that? And obviously you're an independent artist now, and you're doing incredible things as an independent artist. There's so many benefits of being independent, but all of our dreams growing up is to get on a label.
Yeah.
You know, and Motown being one of the legendary, definitely like, great labels for R&B. We know the industry has changed significantly over the last X amount of years, but tell me about the process of getting that deal. And then, I guess obviously there was some heartbreak and some disappointment in that process. So tell me about how you got to there.
I got the deal by not looking for it, to be honest. I was writing first down in Atlanta. And so I actually was writing, I guess, at a Rihanna camp or something like that. And shout out to DJ Toomp. I was playing piano because he was late. And so he like heard me playing and singing while I was killing time. And he was like, yo, like, you an artist? I was like, yeah, I do what I do.
Yeah.
And so we end up writing this, whatever song, but it was good enough for an A&R to come in and say, yo, like, I'm gonna call LA in. And so LA Reid came in, and DJ Toomp stopped him at the door and was like, look, before you even go and hear this song, you gotta hear this kid. And LA Reid sat beside me on the piano, and he liked it enough where it started buzzing around the writing camp. Yeah. Right. And so I'm like, okay, like this may turn into something. It didn't. It didn't. Yeah, however, what ended up happening was my phone stopped ringing, oddly enough. Like I'm thinking like I got this buzz on me, like from the camp, like I'm hitting up the producers like, yo, let's work. Not even on my stuff, but just in general.
Yeah.
And like nobody would pick up. And I was like, this is weird. Like usually I could find work.
Yeah.
And so it was really God kind of isolating me to say, what do you want to hear musically? I haven't, he hadn't heard music come out of me in a while. And so that's what he demanded of me. And so he sat me down. And so I started
he has a way of doing that.
Yeah. And I started creating songs. And those songs just so happened to be technically the demo for Motown. Nice. And so the people that really kind of brought me into that situation, shout out to Troy Taylor and Ezekiel Lewis.
Yeah.
They, really kind of gathered the stuff and, sent it over to Ethiopia, who, was becoming the new president of Motown. And very quickly from there, they was like, sign him. And then we went into a development phase.
Gotcha.
And so in their defense, we were all new.
Gotcha.
I'm a new artist. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
E was new to her position as well. And so no one wanted to fail.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted, success. And so sometimes you could be so fearful and so, guarded of what you have that you can kind of, let things fall through the cracks. And so I sat for a couple years, and then all of a sudden I got on this Maxwell tour, and I opened up for him, and that was a very random experience. However, it was the best experience I've ever had because, I was, maybe doing showcases every couple months.
Sure.
But other than that, I wasn't really performing.
Yeah.
And I go on tour with Maxwell, and it's 5 nights a week.
Yeah.
So I'm like, there ain't no time for groupies. There ain't no time for, all of the vices that I wanted to indulge in.
Yeah.
However, what was most important was every city that I went into to make sure that they had the same level of show as the last, because I wanted to make a lasting impression on them.
Yeah.
Literally right after that, a couple months later, the Neyo tour happened. I think it was called like the Nonfiction tour.
Come on.
And so opened up for him, And then literally, man, like a couple months later, I had a Glade commercial come out. And so what's crazy about that whole year, which was 2014, during that time, was earlier that year, I was sat down by people that were close to me. They was like, "You sure you want to do this?" And they were just talking about artistry. Because it's just like, it's been, almost 2 years. Yeah. And I was having conversations with family too. Like, you think this is for you? Yeah. Like, you've been grinding for a while, And of course, in retrospect, that time was nothing.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. 2 years.
But when you counting up the days, it feels like a long time.
Absolutely. And
so something in me was like, well, if nothing's happened, then why would I quit? You know what I mean? Like, God didn't give me a sign to say I failed. So I mean, at the end of the day, I gotta keep pushing it slowly but surely. You know what I mean? I didn't need a door to open. I just needed to see a crack. I needed just to see a glimmer of light or feel some kind of wind come from a different room. That's all I needed. Yeah. In my, I guess, tenacity. You know what I mean? That's one of my gifts, more so than musicality, is my tenaciousness.
That's awesome.
And so, I took opportunities, and so that was a big year for me. And from there, after 2014 and all of that hoopla, I sat again for another year and a half. And so that experience humbled me in a sense of understanding peaks and valleys.
Was all of that, you were on the label during all this time still? So was it like, I mean, just looking at the pros and cons, having the opportunity to open up for Maxwell, who at this point, 2014, is a super legend at this point.
Sure.
I guess he was still touring the Black Summer Nights album.
Yeah, he was in between one of the albums for sure.
Got you. And then, so you have that. Then you have Neyo after that. Did the label open those doors for you, or how those opportunities come?
I know that the Neyo tour was definitely label driven for sure. Maxwell, I think, was more so on the management side. Nice. That was their play, and so I mean, one way or another, I was super grateful for all of it. However, like I said, after that year and understanding how quick your momentum could be taken away if you don't have vision. That's one thing that I didn't necessarily have. I had talent. I had a creative sensibility.
You had ambition.
However, but I just didn't have vision. I couldn't see past next week. You know what I mean? And so I allowed for the people around me to have the vision for me. And that's a dangerous place to be.
Dangerous.
When, be careful what you say, artist. When you say, all I want to do is sing, that is a very dangerous message that you're sending to God and to the universe. You will get what you ask for.
That's right.
You may not like the result.
Come on.
Because, look, any artist without vision, you know what I mean, that's a very treacherous place. Yeah. And so, I had to learn that lesson. And God had to teach me within that time to say, like, I didn't give you this responsibility and this gift in order for you to allow for other people to see it through. This is on you. This is your responsibility. And until you get that, until you understand that, I'm going to keep sitting you down.
Man.
I'm going to show you all that you can be and the potential of what you're able to do. But until you understand the lesson that I am trying to give to you, I will sit you down.
Wow.
And you're going to work and you're going to understand what you are here for. And the vision that I'm trying to give you is not meant for everybody else. It's for you to execute. And, from there, maybe a year and a half later, we released Long Song Away. It goes #1 on R&B radio.
Love that record.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And from there, I'm like, all right, cool. I got a plan.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, all right, I got 3 albums with Motown, so I'm going to do the 3 albums, whoop, 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 whoop. I'm in a creative zone. Like, I'm going to knock them out, boom, 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 boom. And then God's like, hold up. Just wait 1 second. I was like, all right, well, we moving now. We nominated. What's going on?
Yeah.
He was like, hold up, just 1 second. And so I'm like, all right, let me be still. I'm still creating. Then all of a sudden I get a call from the person that brought me into the label. He left the label. And he didn't let me know until he was over, somewhere else. And so God was like, red flag, right? And I was like, yeah, that was weird. He's like, I think it's time for you to go. I was like, whoa, my plan. He was like, no. My plan.
Yeah.
My plan. I'm telling you to go. I'm like, no. I'm not ready.
And you're feeling this just like very strongly.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's pulling at me like, leave, right? And so I'm scared because I'm like, I don't have any sense of entrepreneurship, no type of business acumen, nothing. Yeah. All I know is music.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know the first thing about being an independent artist. I don't know the first thing about like developing a production company, a label, anything.
Wow.
Like, God, and you want me to leave this? Like, yo, we NAACP nominated, iHeart Music Awards nominated, all of this cool stuff, and you want me to leave? You want me to ask for my release? Yes.
Wow.
So I'm like, I had a conversation with my management. I'm like, yeah, I want to be released from the label. They're like, what? Like, yeah. And so, you know, they're thinking, oh, you know, he just in his feelings right now.
Yeah.
Let it die down. Nah, like, and as the months went by, it just kept growing because nobody would respond. And so had a talk with with Ethiopia. She was so gracious. You know what I mean? Like, you know, we had the talk and I stuck to my guns. However, because business is business,
sure,
they kept me in the deal for about 1.5 years, and then they let me go. They had to kind of ice me and, you know, cool me down.
Right.
But they didn't have to do it. And so for that, I'm grateful for the experience. I'm grateful that they let me go. In that 1.5 years, I was able to develop a business acumen, find a business mentor, you know, create an LLC for Art Society Music Group, solidify a distribution, a situation with Empire over in San Francisco with Ghazi.
Okay,
excellent. And, you know, that 1.5 years was very, very important in the sense of really understanding what was to come.
Yeah.
Because I was definitely not prepared of, like, once I release a project or once I release a song, I'm like, ooh, it's September 2019. Yeah. You know, we finna kill them. 2020 happened, pandemic.
Oh, man. I got horror stories about the pandemic myself. Yeah.
You know, so, you know.
We all do.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, and I know I transitioned straight from being signed to being indie, but that's how it felt to me. It was a whirlwind.
Yeah.
So, yes, that is the story of me being signed, you know, of course, coming up to being an entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur and independent.
Yeah.
So tell me some of the benefits that you're experiencing as an independent artist.
I mean, full autonomy over my releases, for sure. You know what I mean? Really understanding, like, what's under the hood as far as analytics, how much I'm making monthly, what songs are really, you know, garnering more momentum, what's paying me the most. So much in the sense of, like, the benefits of it.
Essentially, everything is coming across your desk versus you waiting for a report to come.
Yeah, I mean, and it's full transparency in the sense of, you know, I have weekly meetings with my team.
Yeah, and
so I always ask them, you know, if someone says no, I don't mind the no, but I want to know why.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Is it not the right time? Is my profile not big enough? Because I want to make sure that we have, you know, certain points that we're hitting and certain marks that we're hitting throughout the year to make sure to say, hey, this is one of the goals that I would like to accomplish this year. Can we do it? What's stopping us? And let's eliminate as many excuses as we possibly can.
The fantastic thing about this time and being an independent artist, you have obviously so much access, so many opportunities. And as long as you have a good team around you, you can accomplish almost everything that you can do with the major funds from a label, right? Because it's all about networking resources in that respect. I think about guys like Brent Fayez, the success he's having, Eric Bellinger, yourself, Samo, so many other fantastic.
Kenyon Dixon is another one.
Come on, Kenyon Dixon is amazing. I'm a big fan of him. His album came out a couple of weeks back.
Exactly.
I've been listening to that real heavy as well, heavy rotation. So guys like yourselves, I've been an independent artist forever. Yeah. When years back, it was getting to your fans and building your own community. That's always been just the work that is. You know, it's not I don't want to say it's a complex thing, but it's just one of those things that you do. But in this era, you have to do those same things, but you have so much more reach. You know, so you can just say, okay, you're gonna use whoever your distro is, and you have Empire. You have if you're super indie, you don't even have a distro deal. You may go through DistroKid, you may go through TuneCore, whomever, but your music is available just like everyone else's.
Absolutely.
And if your music's making enough noise, and you're doing the right things, that your team's doing the right things, you can really make some real noise. So that's really dope and commendable that you've been able to do the things that you've done as an indie artist.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
This last album that you just dropped, this album, well, is it an album? Is it EP? What, like,
it's a project.
It's a project.
It's a project, yeah.
So this is part 2. What can we expect? Like this, I've been listening to this project. That record that you have, obviously, the first single I heard was the one with you and Eric Bellinger.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm a big
Ready
EB
for
fan.
It. Yeah.
You know, that Ready For It, that record is hard. But you know, my joint, New Lows.
Ooh, yeah, it's a good one, good one. Nice taste, good taste.
You know
good
what I'm
taste.
saying?
Yeah.
I love that record.
Yeah.
One thing about, I'm touching on that, but it brings me to a thought. Like some of your older songs that I love, the temperature is different.
Yeah.
So you're writing these other ones were more love songs.
Yeah.
Felt happy, like you're happy in a place, maybe in a relationship, or at least the inspiration of writing these songs. This project feels a little more, I'm in these streets.
Well, no, it's more so of a story of darkness to light.
Come on.
Right? It's a journey to clarity.
Okay.
And so I haven't been there in a long time. The first project that I put out is called Dialogue in the Gray. And so I was really living that. And so now with Midnight Microdose Volume 2, it's more so retrospect. And so I still want to be clear in my intentions towards my audience as well. So it's not me switching up, but it's more so expanding my palette in the sense of artistically being able and having the freedom to tell different narratives.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? To say, okay, I can start off toxic, but not live a toxic life. But if you listen to the whole project, by the time you get to Ready For It, it's clarity there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We start off with Ain't Mine, where I'm sitting up, you know, in places that I shouldn't be, you know what I mean? Linking up with women that I probably shouldn't be linking up with.
Yeah.
And then the next song is Animalistic.
Yeah.
And it explains the nature behind, you know, the reasons why I would do certain things like that. And then the next one is New Lows, which is self-explanatory in the sense of just when you think that you've hit bottom, you discover something even lower than that, right? And being in that. The next song is called Found Me. Found Me is where I say it in the hook. I almost lost it until you found me.
Come on.
So that is the transitional piece where we're coming up from out of the dark. You know what I mean? Where my lifestyle is slowly but surely starting to change. Ready For It is now fully being aware to say, I'm clearing it. So when I put together projects, it's not always about the vibe, but I wanted to make sure that I told a story within Midnight Microdose Volume 2, which I think right now it's going over people's heads a little bit because it's different than Volume 1.
Yeah.
And so Volume 1 was more so of a vibe, and it was very consistent to my brand, my narrative in the sense of love, the clarity of love. And so that's all fine and dandy. But this one, I was like, this is Midnight Microdose. Let me really experiment sonically and my storytelling ability as well. So I never deviated from my intention with my audience. I just wanted to take them on a story to say, if I was to be here, and that if you are in the gray, I can relate. But let me give you a sonic guide of what it may feel like to be or to get to clarity. And so this project may not be for everyone, but if you are on the journey of trying to get out of a space that you don't like anymore, this may be the project for you to listen to straight through.
I love the fact that you even have a story, right? So it's like, you know, back in the day, you'd hear albums that actually took you on an actual emotional journey. You know, I used to try to approach some of my music that way. I'm like, okay, I'm excited. Maybe, you know, if I met this girl, I met her out, we're excited, we're happy. That's the vibe. Track 2 or 3, we vibing. 3, we hit a wall. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
4, I'm apologizing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Track 5, I'm in the rain.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
5, I'm grabbing air. I'm grabbing air in the rain. You know what I'm saying? And then we come into a point of, because my favorite R&B songs generally are the resolution songs.
Yeah.
Like the redemption songs.
Absolutely.
So, mid 6, 7, 8, we're in that range.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that you have a story, not just with one project, but with your catalog.
Yeah.
And you're intentionally taking not just your audience, but the audience, because obviously you're going to you are reaching people who've never heard you before.
Mm-hmm.
So each project you put out are going to reach a different audience, so they're not going to know what to expect. And then listening to interviews like this, or conversations like this rather, brings clarity into and depth into a deeper understanding.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, the way that I operate in my brand, I don't do it for now.
Yeah.
I do it for when, I do it for the discovery.
I love that.
So to me, my catalog is the most powerful thing that I have, in the sense of I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyes of, projects that I put out 2 or 3 years ago, all of a sudden millions and millions of streams are generated because of one song that somebody may have heard from a playlist.
Yeah.
That now they're like, you know what? I think I like Kevin Ross.
Yeah.
Then they backtrack and they go through all of the projects.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, you know what? There's power in that.
For sure.
So when people are like, well, the first week sales and this and that, and it's like, yeah, if you're motivated by that, that's great. However, if you want to be an artist that's in this for 20, 30 years, then you understand that your catalog and the potency of it is your secret weapon. Yeah. In a sense of like longevity.
And I don't feel R&B music is even designed for instant gratification anyway.
Come on.
You know
Let's
what I'm
talk
saying?
about
Sometimes
it.
you can find that, and that's cool. But R&B music is really to sit with, is to grow with.
Yeah.
We're still talking about records from the 60s, the 70s right now, and we're getting deeper understanding and appreciation for this particular piano melody line.
Yeah.
Do you understand how that triggered the lyrics, how that triggered the story, or whatever? So the depth of that from an R&B standpoint, or just from the musicality standpoint, I'm still enjoying music thoroughly.
Yeah.
That's 20 and 30 years old.
Yeah.
And listening to your music, I can tell, not even knowing what you just mentioned about the story of this, I can tell that it's created for that, and I guess for the most part, it's like I listen to these songs and I'm like, God is a Genius.
Yeah.
That record. That's a timeless song.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? The approach was timeless. In that record, when lyrically, you're appreciating, the glory that God's blessed you with, and having the opportunity to have this interaction with this woman. Yeah. Stuff like that. I mean, that's not instant gratification. That's not something you listen to once, like, okay, it's hot as a... No, I mean, you want it to be good, but that's something that you can listen to for some time, and it'll still sit with you. It may speak to you, or, for lack of better words, minister to you in your relationship in a down period. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that's fantastic. I want to go into, we're going to switch gears. Well, before I do that, you've been working with a lot of artists too. You've had the opportunity to make some serious noise. Who have you not worked with yet that you want to?
I mean, obviously Stevie Wonder, of course, is number one. But I'm open. I'm receptive to working with all types of artists. You know what I mean? Like, the more the merrier. Mm-hmm. I'm really interested in everybody's process and just being a part of their ecosystem as well, because it makes me better. Yeah. And so I glean from artists, older or younger. Yeah. So I'm open. So, if y'all down to work, let's work.
Come on, man. I love that. I think more recently I heard, I saw you and Kenyon remixed. What's I can't think of the name.
Slow dancing. Yeah.
Slow dance. Man, that song is so hard. Yeah. That song is hard. That whole album is crazy. I mean, Kenyon just snapped on that record. Absolutely. So we've actually shouted him out a couple of times on the show because a lot of the guests that we've had has mentioned him. Yeah. And of course, I'm one of the guys that's looking for R&B music at all times. So whether it don't matter if you're indie or major, I'm always looking. I'm like, who is this new? Who is the new whatever? And I've been like that since I was a kid. So big fan of that record that you guys did. Your approach, again, both of you guys are incredible arrangers.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it doesn't sound like you're trying. I mean, obviously it's polished and it's world class, but it doesn't sound like you're trying to fit into a mold.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? A musical mold. Like you actually it sounds like free expression. I think that's the best way I can explain that or articulate that. It sounds like free expression.
Yeah.
Where's that come from you?
I mean, that's first and foremost, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I mean, where it comes from is I think it comes from my belief that I'm limitless in my ability.
Mm-hmm.
So why put myself in a box when I know I'm bound to break out of it anyway?
Yeah.
And so that's just my confidence to say I don't got to do what everybody else is doing in order to be heard or to be respected.
Right.
You know, what I bring to the table is enough.
Yeah.
And what I have to offer is viable. And so you know, in this industry, there's a whole bunch of people that's going to tell you that it ain't. You know what I mean? And so I thank God for living in the space that I'm in right now. And, you know, of course, social media, DSPs and stuff like that. Because now with analytics and numbers and all that stuff, like I can say that it's otherwise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And building a community is very important. So that gives me even more confidence to stay on the path of uniqueness.
Yeah.
To say it may not be for everybody. You know what I mean? And just even being a historian, let's just compare two bands. There's Earth, Wind, and Fire, and there's Amazing Franky Beverly.
Come on.
But, you know.
First of all, who you got?
That is not fair, bro.
Who you got?
That's not fair. Oh, that's tough.
I've been having this conversation for so long.
That's so tough, bro.
Yeah.
Don't make me do it, man. That's tough.
You gotta pick one.
I'm gonna go with Franky Beverly and Maze.
Boy, you
because I resonate with the underdog. See, in 2023, Franky Beverly and Maze don't seem like the underdog. But in the 70s,
no question.
Oh, how different it was.
Right. That's right.
Earth, Wind, and Fire was the first black band to sell out Madison Square Garden ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're the first band. That is history.
Yeah.
You can't take that from them.
Yeah.
The power of their music, Maurice White at the helm of it, Philip Bailey on vocals, Verdine White on bass.
Come on.
The all-star lineup that they had, Maurice and the whole conglomerate of having the strings in the horn sections and what's the name of the girl group that they had? Was it the Emotions?
I can't remember that actually.
But he had a girl group. He had
I don't think I knew that they had a girl group.
Oh yeah.
Come on.
And what's her name? Oh my gosh, Vanessa. I'm drawing a blank. But Maurice had his hand in so many other artists' careers as far as penning stuff.
For sure.
For them, and they were smashes.
Yeah.
And so, love Earth, Wind, and Fire. However,
the elements.
I can't imagine how Amazing Franky Beverly would feel when it's like we're just as dope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, even a comparison to Stevie Wonder and Donny Hathaway.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, one's more commercially successful, and the other one was the underdog.
Yeah.
And so, for me, I resonate with that because I am the underdog.
Yeah.
However, because of the day and age that we're in, I don't have to live in the shadows. I can still make a great living off of who I am.
That's right.
And who supports me, because now I can pinpoint them, I can target them.
That's right.
You know what I mean? In the sense of versus having a major conglomerate to say, no, it didn't sell, so it didn't work.
Man, look, if you got 1,000 people in all these different markets, you can that's actually really supporting you. You can really go.
Yeah, but just imagine, like even back then, like so Franky Beverly and Maze now, it's like they're a cultural icon and staple.
Franky Beverly and Maze, I always pick Franky Beverly and Maze as well. I'm not saying that they're better. I'm just saying I choose them over Earth, Wind, and Fire. Not saying that they're better. To me, they do two different things. Earth, Wind, and Fire makes these commercial, big,
amazing records,
amazing records that are unmatched in what it is that they do. But Franky Beverly and them have a swag on their music. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I say in them, in Maze, I don't want to disrespect the band.
Yeah.
Has a swag that resonates with me. It's smooth.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if I'm gonna play a record because my wife is coming over, or when I was in the streets and I'm trying to create a vibe or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd rather play some Maze.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? Play, Franky Beverly, he come on that record. Love, joy, and pain. He was so smooth with it.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, Philip Bailey's vocals are elite. And I'm not comparing who's a better singer or who's that. I'm just saying I probably choose Franky and Beverly for the mood that they set versus what Earth, Wind and Fire does. But both being two of my all-time favorites. And even between the two, I'm going to have to add, before we move on.
Yeah, come on, let's talk about it.
I'm going to have to add The Crown. And that's going to be the Isley Brothers.
Uh-oh. Love that.
Yeah, I got to
add.
they're the crown to that head. You know what I'm saying? So there's so many, that just takes us back to that 70s, the 60s. The fantastic musicality and originality of these sounds that we hadn't heard before.
Yeah.
That inspires everything that we're hearing now. Mm-hmm. That's dope. So we're going to switch gears. There's a point I mentioned, God is a genius.
Yes.
So we have a section called the deep dive.
Yeah.
I say section, a segment called the deep dive. So I want you to tell me what inspired the writing of that song. Like, where'd that come from? Like, that's the approach to that record. I like I said before, I feel like was a very unique and just a super impressive approach to a record.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll say that God is a Genius started off with the rhythm. And because this is a very unique situation, I want to play a voice memo.
Okay.
Because I literally just found it in my phone not too long ago.
Come on.
If time permits.
Yeah.
As I look deep into the archives.
Yeah.
Because it had to have been at least, 2019, something like that. And I am going to... let's see. Okay, so it's somewhere around here. Sorry about this.
No, you're good. You're good.
It says
we can always cut it and make it quick.
Oh, yeah. See, come on now.
Come on, man.
Come on. Hold on. I promise I got it. Okay, here we go. Let's see if it plays. So I'm in a car. So like,
come on, man.
So it starts in the car, and I'm like, I always work off of need. I always work off of what I feel like is missing in the market. And in that time, I was like, I don't think there's much feel good rhythm records in the market space.
Yes.
So I'm like driving, and so that guitar stuff comes to mind. I'm like, I don't got a piano around me yet. And I'm like, but I just gotta capture this feeling.
Yeah. And
I'm like, I'll get to it. I'll find a break beat or something like that. But I was like, I gotta get this out. And literally, I was heading to the studio, ironically enough. And that was one of the first things I worked on. I was like, all right, let me lay down these chords. Let me lay down a break beat. I called Sherrod. And so when Sherrod came in and I already laid down the chords, and I'm like, but this is the rhythm that I want you to play in. Started, giving different feels and layering, and I was like, yes. So we listened back to the track, and I'm looking at him, he looking at me, and I'm like, this feels like something. And so finished with the track. I go upstairs because I'm at like one of my mentor studios. Shout out to Troy Taylor.
Come on,
and
big
so,
up, shout out.
And so there's another creative by the name of E-Miles, and he's in another room working. And so he's like, yo, what you working on? So I'm like, I just finished, producing some stuff downstairs. And so he's like, all right, well, let's work. So I'm like, all right, cool. So he's like, you got some tracks? And I was like, I feel like this track that I just made like feels good. Played it for him. He's like, yeah. And so E. Miles, and who's an amazing creative, he did a lot of records with Trey Songz, did a lot of records with Kevin Gates, and so many other people. And he's one of those guys that's just like, he's a concept guy. He's like, man, I swear, bro, like, God is a genius. And I was like, that. He's like, what? I said, that. God is a genius. I was like, that's the name of the song. He's like, really? He's like, you gonna make an R&B song called God is a Genius? I was like, yes. Nice. And so I was like, and we literally, I think we started with the hook. And so, you know, it kind of happened from there. He's like, how you gonna say it? And I was like, yeah, God must be a genius. Me, you wouldn't be here. I know that you haven't. And so once I got to the heavens, he's like, yes, yeah. He's like, yeah. And so it made the verses easy because in the recording that I just played, I already had part of the verse melody already. So it was just about following the story to say, yo, this makes sense. This feels good. And from there, we put it out. And it didn't do nothing at first because we were like in the middle of the pandemic. And I was like, dang, like, I know I ain't tripping. This record feels good. Like, how come people ain't rocking with this? But granted, it was so much like turmoil in the sense of within the country.
Sure.
People didn't feel like God was a genius during that time. People were really questioning God in the sense of, why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why are we in this situation? Why are we in a pandemic? Why are we in a pandemic and people like me are getting killed? While young black kids being shot down by police. It's like everybody's supposed to be inside, but when we outside, we still getting taken down.
It's tough out here, right?
You know what I mean? And so I had to understand the climate and the temperature. However, once we, started to get up out of that situation, I started to see those streams started to increase even more. And I was just like, it really took a life of its own. So God is a Genius was like the first record I feel like in my independent career that not only was like financially like crazy for me, but it gave me a sense of direction in a sense to say, this is where I fill in the blank as it pertains to the genre. Nobody wants to touch love unless it has this cool swag or a little bit of toxicity in it. And I was like, nah, like I'm a stand on it. I'm a stand on clarity. I'm a stand on, making songs that feel good for people who aspire to be loved or that are already in love or that are, working their way in their, situationship that they may have.
Absolutely.
And so that was kind of one of the first songs that gave me the confirmation to say, you're on the right path.
That's fantastic, man. That's definitely one of my favorite songs. I mean, you have a pretty dope ass catalog.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? But that one right there is one of the ones. And I don't know if it's even just listening to you play the like you humming in the phone. Like that's exactly how I write all the time. Like I'll be sitting around like whatever little vibe, whatever melody I'm hearing. And, you pull out your phone, and I could pull out my phone right now and just go through it. I'm like, oh, I forgot about that one. You know what I mean? So that's dope. And it's fun that you're able to go right to it. You label it nice. That's good. That's good. So let's go into the hot take section. Okay, so out of, you've written so many songs, but your top 5 best R&B songs.
That I wrote?
You know what? Let's just make it more colorful. What are your favorite top 5 R&B songs written, if you could think of those?
Okay.
Not necessarily that you wrote.
In no particular order. John Mayer's "Slow Dancing in a Burning Room."
Come on.
Is up there.
Come on.
It's up there.
I love that.
Ooh. And I don't care what nobody say. Yes, John Mayer is categorized as this like folk pop singer. However, that record,
he's soul.
It's very R&B.
He has a lot of real soul R&B records. We can go into a whole nother segment of John Mayer, but I think John, not to cut you because you got 4 more to answer, but John is a soul. I don't want to say he's full out R&B, but he's 100% a soul artist.
Absolutely.
So he pulls from R&B, he pulls from blues.
Yeah.
I think it's more of that with rock, but he's definitely a soul artist.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So he's in the category for sure.
Let's talk about it.
I love it. I love it.
Um, I want to say that one of my favorite songs has to be, of course, it's a Stevie Wonder record. Um, I love Superwoman by Stevie Wonder. It may not be like the most commercially successful record, but he tells two stories in it, and so I could feel like his, like, in that song you could tell like he's stretching, like you could tell like, oh, so, you know, something's finna happen, in the sense of in his future it was like the birth of the big boom of what we would know Stevie Wonder to be. And so I appreciate that record so much because of how musically rich it is, how lyrical he got in the song. So definitely one of my personal favorites. Babyface, gotta touch on him.
Got you.
So many records from Babyface that are outstanding. So it's really tough.
I hate it. Look, I hate asking questions like this because I could never answer it. It's like, it's so many. But just for the sake of conversation, you have to like think about.
Yeah, and it takes you down memory lane in the sense of, you know, just those records. But I will say that it's so tough. But I'm gonna just name one and just let it live out there. Change the World. Him and Eric Clapton is definitely one for me. Because it just shows his mastery as a writer. It's very simple, but it's just potent.
And some of those are the best ones in that way. Songs.
Let's go to Bill Withers. Bill Withers. Bill Withers could have took up the whole 5. I'm gonna be very honest with you.
No, Bill Withers is out of this world.
Yeah. That's one of the only writers that I feel like him and God co-wrote a lot of stuff together.
On, man.
You know what I mean? Like,
just him and that guitar,
it's a different.
God just deposited these records because his records were masterfully structured, simple.
Grandma's Hands, Lean on Me, Just the Two of Us, Lovely Day, I mean, he has Lean on Me feels like it's in a hymnal.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
yes,
like that joint is,
and Grandma's Hands.
It's kind of crazy. But if I gotta pick a record by Bill Withers, it has to be Lean on Me because of how classic it literally feels like it was written hundreds of years prior to him. So it's very scary. That sense of potency, the simplicity of that record, and how just really
a master
killed it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I gotta give it to Neyo for the final spot. I think because Neyo is so modern and current still, that a lot of people don't give him the credit that he deserves in the sense of how amazing he is as a writer.
He's a generational talent for
like,
sure.
It's scary how good he is. And just listening back to his catalog, the things that he wrote for other people, but I'm gonna give it to So Sick. When I heard So Sick for the first time, I hadn't heard writing like that in so long. When it came out, but to have the beat that he had under it, it was amazing. So So Sick.
Nice.
Yeah.
I feel like Neyo is like, if I compare him to like an NBA player, he'd be like D Wade.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Animal.
You got 3 championships, you know what I'm saying? MVPs, like you just are highly, highly recognized in time. Like I'm talking in time.
Absolutely.
So like D Wade's arguably the second best or third best shooting guard in NBA history. He's in that conversation.
Yeah.
So Neyo, his contribution to R&B has been that impactful that people can put him in those type of conversations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a fantastic 5 songwriters. So R&B, it's making a lot of noise now.
Yeah.
It's, you know, we've been going through some identity crisis. You know,
yeah, that's good.
We've gone through an identity crisis. That's the best way. A lot of people are saying, and have said rather, R&B was dead. Right. I've always been totally stark against that. At the same time, I feel like people just weren't listening. They weren't looking for it. So the main, the industry in terms of the mainstream, all we heard was hip hop, and then we heard other genres that was doing, but R&B music wasn't getting the highlight or the spotlight put on it. And I think in that, R&B artists were searching for an identity. So now you're like, well, if they're not really checking for this, maybe they're checking for this. So that, you know, now R&B artists are trying to sound like or look like rappers and trying to do all these different things. So we all saw the statistic, I'm not sure if you saw it maybe a month or so ago, where Spotify announced hip hop is on the 40% decline in terms of listening, and R&B is on the rise.
Yes.
How does that make you feel? Are you reaping or feeling the benefits of that?
I'm definitely reaping the benefits of it, for sure. I think, you know, I'm just as competitive as anybody else as it pertains to like my brand.
Yeah.
However, for the genre to continue to thrive, we have to think about the overall ecosystem of it.
Absolutely.
And so when one wins, we have to lift that person up.
Right.
Or, you know, the few that have that mainstream spotlight.
Sure.
Because it definitely benefits all of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Spotify and the Apples and the Tidals and the Pandoras, they all have the ability to say artists like. And they have these radio algorithms that, you know, if you're in a similar vein or in a similar vibe, guess what? You're going to get played too.
Absolutely.
And eventually, if they Shazam you or they say, oh, let me save that track.
Yeah.
The discovery process begins.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful that you know, we had the moment to kind of take a, you know, have a seat.
Have a seat.
You know what I mean? For a second, because like you said earlier on, is that R&B has always been indicative of a listening experience.
That's right.
Right? But it's tough in this day and age where nobody wants to listen, everybody wants to talk.
That's right.
Right? So how do you expect for a genre that requires you to listen for it to thrive? When everybody wants to say something, everybody got an opinion, everybody wants to say the amount of time that it took somebody to say R&B is dead, they could have found their favorite new artist.
Man,
I'm just saying.
That's tough. That's
so
real.
Is your motivation to find a community of people that feel the same way, or is your motivation to have your moment in the sun for 10 minutes because you got these amount of reposts?
Man.
Where and what's the incentive?
You preaching right now. Come on, Doc.
But you know, that's kind of where we lie. We lie in a space where you actually have to listen. And you actually have to feel something, and you have to be emotionally available in order to receive the message that we're trying to send out. And so there's a reason. There's a reason for everything. So no, R&B never died. We just had to shed our layers.
Yeah. Kevin, I got to pause this, brother. I got to pause this. Listen, guys. This episode is so good. Kevin's dropping game. I'm always giving y'all a little game. And it's always such an amazing thing to have these type of conversations. But y'all can't get everything just for nothing. I need you to tap in. We just launched a Patreon. Can We Talk R&B? So go to patreon.com/Can We Talk R&B and just tap in. Listen, we're going to have so much extra information from experts like my man Kevin right here that's giving you real game. So artists, writers, if you just love R&B and you just want to be someone who gets that extra information, I'm telling you right now, tap in. We will appreciate you joining in. Subscribe, join the conversation, join the community. We're trying to build it. I need that love from you guys. I don't ask for much. I need a subscription and I need you to join Patreon.
Can we talk?